जनवरी 1940 में ब्रिटिश इंडियन आर्मी की बलोच रेजिमेंट की 5वीं पलटन ज्वाइन की। हिंदुस्तानी सिपाहियों ने जापानीज का बहुत बहादुरी से मुकाबला किया और उन्हें जापानीज के हवाले कर दिया गया। हिंदुस्तान और अंग्रेजों के बीच एक धागा था, वो टूट गया। गद्दारी की कोई माफी नहीं होगी।
You are charged with Indian Army Act Section 41, waging war against the king.
जब अंग्रेजी अफसरों ने साडी हिफाजत नहीं की, तो वो हमारी वफादारी के हकदार किस तरह हो सकते हैं? अगर जिंदा बचा उसके बाद शादी करोगी मुझसे?
Very good evening and welcome to the news tonight, where we get you the day's top stories from India and across the world. I'm Tracy Shilshi and here are the headlines. Terror and talks won't go together, assures External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj in Parliament, claims India's foreign policy is focused on setting a global agenda. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley insists high interest rates on savings and fixed deposits belong to a period of high inflation. Highlights government's pension scheme that guarantees 8% interest rate to senior citizens and retired persons. Supreme Court refuses to stay the Election Commission's notification allowing nota in the upcoming Rajya Sabha elections in Gujarat. Three-member bench seeks response from Election Commission within 2 weeks, agreeing to examine constitutional validity of allowing the option. Income tax surveys continue for the second day at properties owned by Karnataka Power Minister D.K. Shivakumar. Congress calls it political vendetta by the BJP. And former President Pranab Mukherjee shares an emotional letter from Prime Minister Narendra Modi talking about the bond shared by the two leaders. The Prime Minister says Mukherjee's guidance and personal warmth gave him the strength to move ahead. The top story this evening, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj informed Parliament on Thursday that India's foreign policy was focused on setting a global agenda. On Pakistan, she asserted that India will start dialogue with its neighbour the day it stops promoting terrorism against the country. She said that terror and talks cannot go together.
कोई ये कहे कि पाकिस्तान के साथ हमने शांति की पहल नहीं की, हमने दोस्ती का हाथ नहीं बढ़ाया, ये नहीं। लेकिन कहानी बदरंग कब हुई? जब बुरहान वानी का एनकाउंटर यहाँ हुआ और नवाज शरीफ साहब ने वहाँ खड़े होकर के उसको स्वतंत्रता सेनानी शहीद की संज्ञा दी, उसके बाद से चीजें बिगड़ी। Terror and talks can't go together. This is the roadmap.
She also said that both America and Russia stand with India, and this showed that India's foreign policy under the Modi government has been successful. She also said that India has good relations with the Arab states as well. As far as the border standoff with China and Doklam is concerned, Sushma said that a solution was being reached through talks.
India always believes that peace and tranquility in the India-China border areas is an important prerequisite for smooth development of our bilateral relations. We will continue to engage with the Chinese side through diplomatic channels to find a mutually acceptable solution on the basis of the Astana consensus between our leaders. I note the sense of the House is supportive.
Well, before the External Affairs Minister's reply, almost all opposition parties reminded the government of the present stalemate with China. They suggested that the issue be resolved through dialogue and diplomatic initiatives. They, however, showed solidarity with the government on the issue of national interest and said that the government should come out with solutions keeping in view India's long history of non-alignment.
The short-duration discussion on the issue of foreign policy in the upper house of Parliament was initiated by Congress member Anand Sharma. He accused the government of being silent on issues relating to foreign policy. He also asked that the government present a roadmap on how it wants to deal with China.
इस समस्या को एक बहुत बड़ी चुनौती का सामना करने की आपकी पॉलिसी में कोई स्थिरता नहीं है। वो बदलती रहती है, पलटती रहती है और देश गफलत में पड़ जाता है कि आपकी सोच क्या है।
The Narendra Modi government has restored a robust sense of purpose, a sense of authenticity, a sense of ownership, and above all, a very deep sense of mutuality to our foreign policy. The world doesn't look at India the way it was looking at India a couple of years before. And we must appreciate this. Rising above partisan politics, we must appreciate it.
Samajwadi Party and JDU members stressed on the need to strengthen the army.
युद्ध के लिए तैयार रहना शांति को सुरक्षित रखने का सबसे कारगर तरीका है और ये अगर मन और मस्तिष्क में रहेगा हमारे देश के नेताओं के और हमारी सेना इतनी मजबूत होगी, हमारी ताकत इतनी मजबूत होगी तो हमें कोई खतरा नहीं होगा।
विदेश नीति है वो ज़्यादा इस समय इस दौर में हिंदुस्तान के आसपास का जो मुल्क है उसके रिश्ते पर ज़्यादा निर्भर कर रहा है।
We need to make our presence felt in the neighboring countries, especially Sri Lanka, and we should see that our development, our arms and ammunition, which the Indian Army, as recently we observed.
Members also raised the issue of strategic balance, saying the government should not abandon the Middle East for Israel.
Our appeal to the government is, do not cement any US, Israel, India axis in world affairs.
Okay.
That is not in our country's interest. That is not in the interest of the support and allies that we get.
The international maritime boundary line between Sri Lanka and India must be refixed because now our traditional rights of our fishermen are being taken away in the name of international maritime boundary line.
Members also talked about keeping neighbours in good humour by fulfilling commitments made to them. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj on Thursday also said that the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, has consistently flagged India's concerns over the detention of Indian fishermen to the Sri Lankan leadership. She also stressed that the government has secured the release of over 250 fishermen this year.
Replying to queries during question hour in the upper house on Thursday, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj said that the matter of fishermen being arrested by the Lankan Navy was raised in each meeting between the leadership of both countries. These meetings have so far resulted in the release of 42 boats and 200 Indian fishermen from Sri Lanka.
अच्छा हुआ प्रधानमंत्री यहाँ बैठे हैं। मैं कहना चाहूँगी सदन को कि प्रधानमंत्री जी के अपने स्तर पर राष्ट्रपति मैत्रीपाला सिरिसेना के साथ, प्रधानमंत्री रानिल विक्रमसिंघे के साथ जितने भी मीटिंग्स हुई हैं, एक दो नहीं जितने भी मीटिंग्स हुई हैं, चाहे वो कोलंबो गए हों 2 बार, चाहे वो यहाँ आए हों, हर बार ये विषय उठाया जाता है और उसी का ये परिणाम है कि हम 42 बोट्स भी छुड़ा कर लाए हैं और हम 251 मछुआरे भी छुड़ा कर लाए हैं और जिनके बारे में खुद राजा जी ने पूछा था उनको भी समय से पहले छुड़ा कर लाए।
Thank you. Second question.
Responding to another supplementary, Social Justice and Empowerment Minister Thawar Chand Gehlot clarified that there has been no reduction in budgetary allocation for scheduled castes.
बजट में किसी प्रकार की कोई कमी नहीं हो रही है। पहले से बजट निरंतर बढ़ता जा रहा है। दूसरा एक और जानकारी देना चाहूँगा कि भारत सरकार ने रोजगार की दृष्टि से स्वावलंबी बनाने के लिए कौशल विकास विभाग भी प्रारंभ किया है और उसके माध्यम से ट्रेनिंग भी देते हैं और रोजगार देने का भी प्रयास करते हैं। मेरे
Questions were also raised on the inclusion of Ayurveda in civil services examination and inclusion of National Law University in the list of institutes of national importance. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Rajya Sabha today passed a bill to declare the Indian Institute of Information Technology, Design and Manufacturing at Kurnool in Andhra Pradesh as a centre of national importance. The bill provides for the inclusion of the IIIT DM, Kurnool, along with the other IITs in the Principal Act. The institute will have the power to award degrees to students. With this, the IIIT DM becomes the fifth such institute. Taking part in a brief discussion, MPs expressed concern about the privatization of education as well as delay in filling up faculty vacancies. Union HRD Minister Prakash Javadekar said that the lack of faculty will be overcome. Congress MP Jairam Ramesh said that institutions of different categories should be brought up to the same level.
Minister, regarding the shortage of faculty, when I was chairman of the IIT, we conducted a study. 40% of the IIT products are straight away going abroad.
Created 3 categories of triple ITs in the country. Triple IT, International Institute in 3 cities. Triple IT, Indian Institute in 15 cities, but in PPP mode. And now 5 more triple ITs with 100% central government funding. My request to the Honorable Minister, at some point of time, rationalize the structure of triple ITs.
Particularly this education infrastructure concerning information technology in our country is not handled in a proper way, particularly in the private sector, sir. Presently, there are more than 10,500 private engineering institutes in our country. A majority of these colleges lack a proper IT department. That national course or curriculum for all IT courses in government aided, and particularly in the mushroom private institutions should be initiated so that standardization of IT education can be ensured.
उत्तर प्रदेश में 2-3 राष्ट्रीय महत्व के संस्थान और खोले जाएं, जिससे कि वहाँ के बच्चों को फायदा मिले। इसके साथ साथ जो पूरे देश में राष्ट्रीय महत्व के 5 संस्थान हैं, ये इन 5 संस्थानों में अनुसूचित जाति के छात्रों की कमी बहुत कम है, उनके प्रवेश नहीं हो रहे हैं, तो आरक्षण के हिसाब से उनका प्रवेश दिलाया जाए।
कि जिसमें जो भी सुझाव दिए, अच्छे सुझाव दिए, उसको मैंने नोट किया है और हर एक को जवाब भी भेजेंगे। फैकल्टी के बारे में जो मुद्दा मुख्य उपस्थित किया अनेक सदस्यों ने, तो IIM बिल आ रहा है अगले सप्ताह, तब उसकी विस्तार से चर्चा करेंगे और इसमें सबको धन्यवाद देते हुए
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has defended SBI's decision to cut interest rate on saving accounts of less than 1 crore rupees. He informed the Upper House on Thursday that the move was in line with the reduction in lending rates.
Responding to a zero-hour submission on the State Bank of India's decision to cut interest rate on saving accounts with less than 1 crore rupees, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley asserted that high interest rates on savings and fixed deposits were during a time when inflation was 10 to 11%. He underlined that with waning lending rates, the savings account rates also dwindled. Jaitley also highlighted that for senior citizens and retired persons, the government has unveiled a pension scheme that guarantees 8% interest rate.
Please remember that you are talking about a time when inflation was 10 and 11%. The lending rates were high and the sluggishness was setting in because of that. And therefore, when the lending rates go down, the borrowing rates also will obviously come down. These are all interconnected. And this government, to take care of those senior citizens, for the first time has brought in a scheme of 8% guaranteed, which will not change. As far as the senior citizen pension is concerned, the cumulative effect of that interest is actually 8.3%. I have already launched that scheme. The Prime Minister had announced it on the 31st of December, and if you have any person who's affected, they can take the benefit of that 8% scheme as far as fixed returns are concerned.
Earlier, Derek O'Brien of the TMC expressed concern over the lowered interest rate through a zero-hour mention.
Sir, SBI reduced rates of savings on bank accounts holding a balance of less than 1 crore by 0.5%. So more than 90% of bank accounts in India are people who have less than 1 crore. The obvious impact is that small depositors, especially the senior citizens, especially the pensioners, are all affected. Now, when they are affected, what would they do as alternatives?
India's largest lender, State Bank of India, on Monday cut interest rates on savings bank deposits by 0.5%. Now, for saving deposits balance up to 1 crore rupees, SBI will offer a rate of 3.5% as compared to 4% earlier. However, for saving deposits balance above 1 crore rupees, rate of interest has been retained at 4% per annum. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
In a setback to the Congress ahead of the Gujarat Rajya Sabha elections next week, the Supreme Court today refused to put a stay on Congress's petition to put Nota option on hold. While both the Congress and the BJP are against the Nota or none of the above candidates option, the Congress alleges that the option could influence election voting in the upper house.
The Supreme Court on Thursday refused to stay the Election Commission's notification allowing Nota in the upcoming Rajya Sabha elections in Gujarat. Seeking a response from the Election Commission within 2 weeks, the bench agreed to examine the constitutional validity of allowing Nota.
जीते तो हम और भूपेंद्र यादव जी जो प्रयास था वो असफल रहा, तो इसका मतलब कि ये नोटा का दुरुपयोग करना चाहते हैं। ये तो मान लिया ना भूपेंद्र यादव जी ने कि अगर नोटा का इस्तेमाल हुआ, हराने के लिए इस्तेमाल होगा ना, तो इसलिए ये नोटा चाहते हैं।
With 4 people including Amit Shah, Smriti Irani, Balwant Singh Rajput from the BJP and senior Congress leader Ahmed Patel in the race for the 3 Rajya Sabha seats, the court's decision is a setback for the Congress. 6 party MLAs have already defected to the BJP ahead of the elections, and the Congress claims the new Nota option will influence the result.
With regards to the usage of Nota, the BJP, also a high-level delegation comprising Mr. Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, Mr. Bhupender Yadav and others, went to the Election Commission and pointed out that this is something that the party feels requires much greater discussion about. With regard to the Congress party challenging it, as the Law Minister, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, has pointed out, that the notification itself is of January 2014, which is the UPA tenure. So that is for the Congress party really to answer.
Supreme Court में judgment दिया तो उसके ऊपर बोलने के लिए हम कौन है? फिर एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ लागू कर चुका है हम लोगों ने। एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ में पार्टी विप लागू कर सकता है और किसी एक पार्टी का इलेक्टेड मेंबर है तो उसको पार्टी का डायरेक्शन के बिना वोट करने का हक नहीं।
According to the Election Commission, MLAs have to show their ballot paper to an authorized party agent before putting it in the ballot box. If an MLA casts the ballot for someone else or uses the Nota option, he cannot be disqualified or his vote invalidated. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the Income Tax Department continued their searches for the second day on Thursday on properties linked to Karnataka Energy Minister D.K. Shivakumar. The surveys were conducted at Karnataka, Chennai and Delhi residence of the minister. The Congress party has called the action political vendetta by the BJP.
Income tax surveys continued for the second day in various locations including Delhi at properties owned by Karnataka Energy Minister D.K. Shivakumar. Searches were also conducted at the house of the minister's father-in-law in Bengaluru. On Wednesday, the IT officials recovered 10 crore rupees in cash after surveys in nearly 64 properties owned by the minister and his family members. The properties searched included a private resort in Bengaluru where 44 Gujarat Congress MLAs are housed. The action sparked a huge political row, with the Congress calling it a political vendetta by the BJP.
Political vendetta. They are using entire central government machinery agencies to take political vendetta against Congress and against opposition party. That is why the time they have chosen for IT raid to D.K. Shivakumar is very much clear that they want to stop Congress Rajya Sabha member Ahmed Patel ji.
कांग्रेस पार्टी का कभी नारा होता था कि कांग्रेस का हाथ आपके साथ, अभी लगता है उसका नारा बदल गया है कि कांग्रेस का हाथ करप्शन के साथ। एक ये शुद्ध रूप से करप्शन से जुड़ा हुआ, ब्लैक मनी से जुड़ा हुआ मुद्दा है। इसमें कोई पॉलिटिकल वेंडेटा का क्या प्रश्न है?
In a related development, Karnataka Congress workers held protests in Bengaluru against the Income Tax Department's action.
They are buying out MLAs openly in Goa, in Manipur, in Bihar, in Karnataka, in Gujarat. Everywhere they are trying the same thing. Where is the money coming from? Are these people the cleanest people? Are they the only ones who are non-corrupt? So this is a very clear-cut, specific, targeted operation.
Shivakumar is currently hosting Gujarat Congress MLAs who were taken to Bengaluru to keep the party's flock together. Last week, the Congress flew 44 Gujarat MLAs to Karnataka after alleging that the BJP offered 15 crore rupees each to resign from the party. The developments come after at least 6 Gujarat Congress MLAs resigned to join the BJP. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Former President Pranab Mukherjee today shared a letter he received from Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his last day in office. Taking to Twitter, the former president said that the letter was an emotional one. Here are some excerpts.
An emotional letter from Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the subject of a tweet by former President Pranab Mukherjee on Thursday. The letter spells out the bond shared by the two leaders who belong to two different political ideologies. In the letter, Prime Minister Modi recalls the time when he shifted to Delhi 3 years ago. Modi writes that he faced a huge and challenging task after taking over as Prime Minister. But it was Pranab Mukherjee's guidance, wisdom and personal warmth that gave him the strength and the confidence to move ahead. Prime Minister Modi also mentions that despite holding different political ideologies and experiences, the intellect and wisdom of Pranab Mukherjee enabled both of them to work with synergy. He also said that Pranab Mukherjee belongs to a generation of leaders for whom politics was simply a means to selflessly give back to society. Dated 24th of July, Pranab Mukherjee received the letter on his last day in office. Soon after he made the letter public, Prime Minister Modi said on Twitter that he will cherish working with Pranab Mukherjee. Pranab Mukherjee's daughter Sharmishta also thanked Prime Minister Modi for the emotional tribute to her father. She, however, said, as a Congress leader, she will continue to oppose his anti-poor policies. Pranab Mukherjee's tenure as the 13th President of India ended last month when Ram Nath Kovind took over as his successor. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to more national news, and in Jammu and Kashmir, 2 army men, including a major, were martyred and 2 other personnel injured when terrorists opened fire on a search party in Shopian district. According to police, the army launched a cordon and search operation in Zaipura area of Shopian following intelligence inputs about the presence of militants. Terrorists fired upon the party and injured 4 army personnel. In a separate incident, 2 terrorists were killed in an encounter in Kulgam area. The police said that the slain militants were members of the Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist outfit. An AK-47 rifle and ammunition were recovered from the militants. And here are more updates from across the country in Nationwide. A Delhi court today imposed 10,000 rupees as costs on NBA activist Medha Patkar for her repeated failure to appear in defamation cases filed by her and KVIC chairman V. Saxena against each other. Magistrate Vikrant Vaid granted one last opportunity to the activist while warning that he will dismiss her complaint against Saxena if she fails to appear again. The Indira Gandhi Institute of Medical Sciences in Patna deleted the word virgin from its marital declaration form today, a day after the issue triggered a controversy. The Medical Institute has drafted and issued a new form now. On Wednesday, the IGIMS's marriage declaration form was brought to light, in which the institute sought details on its employees' virginity and marriages. The Congress has come up with a unique way to protest against the skyrocketing tomato prices in the country by opening a tomato bank in northern Lucknow city. With baskets of tomatoes in their hands, people queued up outside the State Bank of Tomato, as what they call sarcastically named after the State Bank of India, the country's largest state-run bank. All right, international news. And China has once again blocked a bid to designate Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed terror group chief Masood Azhar as a global terrorist by the UN. It has extended its technical hold on the US, France and UK-backed proposal by 3 months. China had done the same in February this year. The deadline for China to take action on its technical hold was the 2nd of August. If China had not extended that technical hold, the Pathankot terror attack mastermind would have automatically been designated as a terrorist under the United Nations. Just before the deadline lapsed, China sought a 3-month extension until 2nd of November on its technical hold on the proposal. China is a veto-wielding permanent member of the UN Security Council and has repeatedly blocked India's move to put a ban on the Jaish-e-Mohammed leader under the Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee of the Council. JEM is already in the banned list. When India first sought a ban on Azhar in March last year, China was the sole member in the 15-nation UN organ to put a hold on India's application. Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev has lashed out at the United States for imposing new sanctions on the country. He said that the new sanctions are tantamount to declaring a full-scale trade war against Moscow. Medvedev said that the fresh sanctions have crushed all hopes of repairing ties between both the countries, asserting that it demonstrated President Donald Trump's total weakness in the most humiliating way. The fresh sanctions aim to punish Russia for its alleged meddling in the 2016 US elections and its actions in Ukraine. The legislation also limits the amount of money Americans can invest in Russian energy projects, making it more difficult for the US companies to do any business with Russia.
The President signed the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. The President favors tough measures to punish and deter the bad behavior of the rogue regimes in Iran and North Korea. And he also sent a clear signal that we won't tolerate interference in our democratic process by Russia.
I'm not supposed to comment on the domestic US policies, but that was a catch-21 for President Trump, and he basically was obliged to sign it. And of course, you know, this bill was adopted by US Congress on the host of absurd accusations about Russia. I really wonder, is there anything in this world today which Russia is not guilty of?
Meanwhile, Iran too has said that the new US sanctions were a violation of its nuclear deal with world powers, piling pressure on President Hassan Rouhani as he started his second term. His endorsement of a second term came less than a day after US President Donald Trump confirmed fresh sanctions against Iran. And now let's take you through some more international news updates in Global Buzz. US President Donald Trump announced his support for a legislation that will cut in half the number of legal immigrants allowed into the US. If passed by the Congress and signed into law, the legislation could benefit highly educated and technology professionals from countries like India. After a cabinet reshuffle, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe promised to rebuild the nation's trust in an administration recently smeared by suspicions of a cronyism scandal. Recent opinion polls have shown support for Abe plunging to below 30%. Abe also stressed the importance of a strong Japan-US alliance amid escalating threat from North Korea over its recent missile launches. Facing a Saudi-led boycott, Qatar approved a landmark law with the potential to ultimately transform Gulf societies by granting permanent residency cards and new rights to some of the foreigners who dominate its population. The move would be the first in the Gulf region. Under the new law, cardholders will be treated like Qatari nationals and will benefit from elements of the state's generous welfare system, including education and healthcare services. The Election Commission of Pakistan has barred Punjab Chief Minister Shehbaz Sharif from taking part in his own poll campaign for a by-election to the National Assembly seat left vacant after a disqualification of his elder brother and former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. The ECP warned that legal action would be taken against any individual found in violation of the rules. The polling for the seat will be held on the 17th of September. And finally, in sports, India's Yuki Bhamri had a huge win at the City Open in Washington on Wednesday when he beat defending champion Game of Hill. Bhamri, a qualifier in the tournament, beat the 6-seeded 6-3, 4-6, 7-5 in the second round of the City Open. 25-year-old Bhamri has now moved into the round of 16 to face Argentina's Guido Pella. Meanwhile, Australia's Nick Kyrgios retired with a shoulder injury after losing 6-3, 3-love to American tennis Sandgreen, leaving the court to a chorus of boos. That's all we got back in on the news tonight. Thanks for joining us.